Just like every other podcast, welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me are my good pals, Big Blue and Jaime. Blue, we'll start off with you. You look like you're out in space right now. How you doing, my man? I can hear you loud and clear. Oh, you know what?
Enjoying my space food.
There it is. There it is. I accidentally had you guys muted. Let me know if everybody can hear Blue and Jaime right now. You guys should, but let me
Hi,
know.
everybody.
So
I hope so.
What are you eating, Blue?
This is a pineapple with tahini.
Dude, that looks like a piece of kryptonite or something. You can see right through it. It's freaking weird.
I'm eating my space food.
Like, wait. Bring up another piece if you have one. Let's see this again one more time. Show everybody. That's crazy, Blue. That's crazy.
Delicious too.
Is it? It looks delicious, my man. Way to be professional. Way to keep it. I think I caught Jaime off guard there. But thank you for staying tuned. You know, we appreciate you, Blue. Yeah, I'm all muting him over here, and I forgot you're on the StreamYard, on the Skype. Sorry about that, y'all. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of things first, and then we're going to go to some phone calls. You know, the first thing that we're going to discuss is going to be the news that broke not too long ago that demolition of the 1122 King Road residence is going to happen a little bit later this month. You know, before we get into this statement made by the Goncalves family's lawyer and sent to me by Christy Goncalves herself, I want to get your guys' opinion first and foremost. So, Big Blue, you first, my man. What do you think about, you know, the demolition of the house? How does that make you feel? Do you think it's the right move, the wrong move? What does it tell you about the case?
I mean, for me, I wanted the house to be there till the court date, but I understand why I guess the city wants it torn down, or the university. They want to move past this tragedy, and they want to build a memorial, you know, remembering the lives that were lost. I think it's good on one side. For some people, it'd be better to move on, but for some people, I think they want it up till the court case is done.
Yeah. Where would you stand? Would you have rather it stayed up, or you're okay with it being demolished?
I'd rather it stay up, because they could have taken the jury to the house, and you would be able to hear, you know, some testimonial, probably conversations. You know, maybe they can have somebody upstairs scream or say help or something, and you'll be able to see what Dylan was hearing if she was awake at that time.
Right. What about you, Jaime? What are your thoughts and your opinions on the fact that they're going to be demolishing the house in a couple of weeks? You're muted, my man. You're still muted. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, I think you muted me on Skype.
No, I didn't. I tried muting you on StreamYard, and then I realized it was pointless.
I think it's a horrible idea. By the looks of it, I kind of fear that if they're gonna demolish it, they're thinking that this trial might be longer than anticipated. You know?
Yeah.
I think they should wait until the end of the trial. I'll tell you that. But like Blue said, that you could take the jurors out there so they can see firsthand the house itself. I know some of the stuff was taken out, some of the floorboards and stuff like that, but I don't think that should be a problem, you know, for jurors to be in there.
Yeah. You know, for me, I think also it's a mistake. One of the things that I would like the jury to see is if Bryan Kohberger was in fact out there those 12 different occasions, and he was nearby and what he was doing was stalking the house or watching the house. I want the jurors to stand in those locations so that they can see what advantage Kohberger would have had from that direction. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, yo, Daniel, there's a 27-mile radius on those pings. You're not going to be able to tell that he stood in this one location or that location. And my response to that is, right now, that's what we knew up until the point of his arrest, right? Because they had the PCA. When they arrested him, all they were able to do was get his pings location, his historical data, right? After his arrest, they were able to get his GPS locations from his phone. So what we know is that if his phone was pinging to a tower during those 12 occasions that they are accusing him of stalking, that house, then that means his phone is on. And his phone is on means that those apps like your Facebook, your InstaSnap, all those other things are going to end up also tracking your location. Now that they have him in custody, guess what happens? Warrant out, look at his GPS locations, and they're going to know down to a couple of feet where exactly he was at that night. And I would want the jury to stand in that location and see what they see. Can you see inside the house? Can you see inside of one of the rooms? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You all right there?
I don't know, man. I hear some noises coming from my apartment. I'm by myself, so I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Well, as long as it's not a baby crying or laughing, you'll be all right.
Yeah. No.
So, that's one thing. Second, I would prefer, if it would be safe, right, for the jury to walk through the house. Now, one of the things that they're going to have to do is walk up the steps. Now, I honestly assume that each one of those steps were taken down, all right, because they probably took every one of those baseboards, every one of those stair steps down and tested it for DNA, did everything possible, right? So there might be a situation where they can't even get up there safely, or to the point where the court would be comfortable allowing the jury to come up to the second floor. But I do think that there are some advantages of keeping the house up, and I, for one, would prefer it to be up as well. Let's see.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, like, even when it comes down, remember I was telling you about the 911 calls? They can use GPS to, I was totally dying. To pinpoint where you're at. Speaking of that, like, a couple of, like, last week actually at work, I was at work and I was watching a TikTok, and I don't know what happened, but my phone started glitching, right? And it completely froze. So I just started like tapping on it, right? Well, I ended up calling 911, right? I ended up calling 911 when I was tapping on it, and I could hear the person or the 911 operator talking.
Mhm.
They couldn't hear me. I could hear them. And lo and behold, later on, sheriff gets there to my work to ask me about it. And I was like, oh, look, my phone was, was in the fritz, and I was just tapping on the phone on the screen, and ended up calling an emergency call. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, that triangulation, in the 90s, it was probably 27-mile radius accuracy. But, in today's world, that's not the case. And although it's not as accurate as GPS locations, it's good enough to get you a warrant for those GPS locations. Hold on. Glenna says that long after the arrest, GPS AT said no connection to the victims. I mean, if he's parked outside in the parking lot next door, obviously, or even if it's the parking lot behind the house, they're not going to claim that that's a connection. They're going to say, he's just parked back there because, that's where he likes to park for whatever reason. I mean, he likes to drive around by himself. He hasn't told us those answers either. Right now, another piece of evidence that we're going to find just real quick before we get onto the statement is we're going to know why Bryan Kohberger turned his phone off, or why it wasn't connected to the network. Let me reframe that. Right now or up until the PCA, all they knew was that his phone was not connected to the tower, right? That's all they knew. After his arrest and they got his phone, they're going to forensically have downloaded. They would have forensically have downloaded the phone, and they're going to know why it was off, whether it was manually turned off, whether it lost connection to the network or whatever, whether the battery died. All of those things are saved on its internal storage. Right. So they're going to know the answer to those things. So we can all say, hey, he could have done this, he could have done that. But by the time we get to trial, we're going to know the answers to those things one way or another. And the only person that's going to be able to answer to those things, like let's just say his phone was manually turned off by him. Right. It was manually turned off by him. Who can answer that question as to why? Don't jump on all at one time, but it's only going to be Bryan Kohberger. And
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's trying to get the Skype to unlock by clicking the button a few times.
Gotcha.
I know you. I was drinking a soda when you asked me that.
But yeah, it's going to be Bryan Kohberger, right? Now, if Bryan Kohberger takes the stand, because the prosecution is going to say, hey, he manually turned this phone off during this specific time during the murders. That's suspicious. He turned it off because he was conducting the murders at that time. They can't, Bryan Kohberger's defense team, his attorney is not going to say, all right, I want the prosecuting attorney on the stand and say, is it possible that, this, that, and the third? No, the only way they're going to be able to come out with the answers if Bryan Kohberger goes up there and answers as to why, his phone was turned off. And if he goes up there and takes the stand, they're not going to just ask him that question. He's opened up to a fury of questions, right? Yeah. Now, what's the only thing he can do to protect himself? Plead the fifth.
Yeah. Like not say anything, or unless the thing is, like I was thinking about it, is like when it comes down to the location, the GPS locations on there, like they can actually check the history, right? Like so far back, like maybe a month back, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And they should check. I mean, I don't know if they did or not, but if I was them, I would check if there was like if he was doing that before the murders, like if it was actually that phone was getting turned off around the same time or in the same areas, and then coming back on after he left the area.
Yeah, they took his historical locations back to where back to when he moved to the area. And so that's how they know that he was in that area 12 different times. Right. So he had to have had his phone on during that time for them to have known that. But yeah, they were able to go back, and they've already gone back to that. I'm interested to know how close he was on those 12 different occasions. Yeah, in my opinion, it's got to be close, because, if it was pretty far away, if it was at the mall, if it was at the convenience store, if it was three blocks down the street at his buddy's pal's house, don't you think that there'd be some sort of motion to remove, that, or you look at what they have come up with, they've already put in motions, there's no DNA in his car. There's no, they found 2 unidentified DNAs in the house. They got super specific about the third one, saying it was inside the glove and the outside of the house. And the reason being is it brings up more of the, I guess, mystery. Like, oh, there's a glove outside. But why weren't they super specific with the DNA on the inside? If it was helpful to their client, why not say where it was? Right? Because it's probably not helpful to their client. What do you got?
Well, I think the reason why they said the glove was outside, also so they wouldn't suspect it was his inside the house, or like second person with him inside.
I mean, it could be, but it also could be that they're thinking that the actual killer, fled and threw the glove outside, right? So, if there was something that put him somewhere else, I think, in my opinion, we'd already hear it. What defense are we hearing, though? We're hearing 1880 law, to try to get him off for some grand jury, trying to change what it takes for a grand jury indictment. Right? They wanted reasonable doubt, which it's not what it is. And then, they're hoping that somehow some piece of evidence that they're not using against Bryan Kohberger throws out other evidence, or I don't even know what, because it's not going to do anything to it. So, their defense isn't one, in my opinion, that screams an innocence defense. I mean, when it comes to the IGG, what is his defense there, innocent wise? It's that police focused in on him, and they didn't look at all the other Kohberger relatives who were possibly in the area, basically saying that they didn't investigate his family members. Well, we know that the trash pool was done legally. There's nothing anybody can do about that. That's a legal pool. So we know that the DNA was to the father, right? So with that being said, we know that it has to be Bryan Kohberger or one of his brothers. And to our knowledge, Bryan Kohberger doesn't have a brother. And then his DNA matched on the sheet. So what's that, Hammond?
Yeah.
Or does he?
Well, that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that they found one.
I heard, from what I heard Brian's brother's name is Jeff. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
My name is Jeff.
It could be. I'm not sure. Speaking of Jeff, if you're in the building, buddy, I sent you an email. I need you to go look at that. Let's see. Marie says, I love when I catch you guys live. Great hosts, great mods, and great content. Appreciate that. I want to say thank you to Canadian True Crime Buff for gifting 5 memberships. We appreciate you. AT would have not passed up her big chance to say if there was other DNA closer than inside the house, like she said in court. Yeah. I mean, they said that it was in the area where 2 of the bodies were found. That's very vague. That's like on the other side of the room, right? But you can't say the other side of the room, because that would tell people that it's not really related, especially when that there was 150 people there, the night before, and that there's been a lot of parties there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that being said, let's get into this statement real quick. I'm just going to read it out. Christy told me that this statement was prepared by their lawyer, Shannon. And the statement says, in statement on behalf of the Goncalves family, let us ask this. Isn't it better to have the King Road house and not need it than need the house and not have it? That has been our question to the prosecution and to the University of Idaho for the entire time the demo of the King Road has been an issue. But why is it even up for discussion? This is one of the most horrific crimes in the history of Idaho, and the University of Idaho wants to destroy one of the most critical pieces of evidence in the case. And it is also important to make note there is now a demolition date before there is even a trial date set. That alone speaks volumes. It is obvious from 2 recent visits to my house, both by the prosecution and the defense, that there is still evidentiary value in having crime. There has always been a dialogue up there. There's always been a dialogue about their 3D imaging, or they are building a model to replicate the home. First, etc. First and foremost, what a waste of state money, resources, and secondly, nothing replaces the real thing. Jurors are notoriously unpredictable, and they tend to make decisions on a variety of facts and circumstances. It would be foolish to us to try and foresee what they will want or need to make, or just to make a just verdict in this case. The family is stressed tirelessly to the prosecution. Let me read that again. The family has stressed tirelessly to the prosecution and to the University of Idaho of the importance, evidentiary and emotionally, that the King Road house carries, but nobody seems to care enough. It's like screaming into a void. Nobody is listening, and everyone tells you how sorry they are for the decision, but the family's opinion isn't a priority. Victims' families have a voice and should be heard and listened to. End of the statement. I'll start off with you, Jaime. What do you think about the statement? You agree, disagree? What are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I know where she's coming from. I mean, like she said, or how the family said, is that one of the biggest pieces of evidence that they could use and show the jurors, a walkthrough, and some of the jurors, you know, have a conscience and feelings, and they can kind of feel and hear and see exactly what happened throughout that night. I walked through with the prosecutor,
Yeah.
and it's just sad to hear that even though all those requests were made by the victim's family, they're not taking that in consideration to hold to keep the place, there before demolishing it, or at least until after the trial. That's sad that they're not making that. The state is not making the effort.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think what they're saying is extremely correct when it comes to the jurors being notoriously unpredictable and making decisions on a couple of reasons. Emotional decisions are pretty key. In fact, in sales, you're taught that every decision that a person makes is emotional. The emotion could be that they trust what you're saying. It could be that they trust the numbers, and it makes them feel good. If they're an analytical type of person, things like that. So you're going to take a big portion of the emotion out of this case by not allowing the jurors to go out there and actually get into the area, see the area, like I said, see what you can see from where he was at. What are your thoughts, Big Blue?
Yeah, my thoughts are still with they should stay up to the trial date. But as we all know, there's no shortcoming of when day it's going to be. I've seen cases here locally be tried 3 or 4 years after the incident.
Yeah.
So, and they're spending a lot of money on security. So I think they're kind of had their backs against the wall. They're gonna probably do it more for funding. They're gonna have to tear it down. It's better for them to build a memorial. Because I've already seen on some of the forum, people are saying like, "Hey, when it gets torn down, can somebody go get the address numbers off the house?" They want memorabilia of the house.
Yeah,
They're already talking about it.
That's
So
horrible.
imagine if the case goes on longer and security gets down, what the damage they're going to do to it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I believe the state or the governor gave X amount of money to the state, or allowed X amount of money or funding to complete this case. Maybe perhaps they should just kind of fund somebody to be out there. They're going to have to build a 3D model anyways. They're going to be building, this 3D model. I don't know where they're going to put it at. They're going to have to rent land or buy property or whatever the case may be to put this model somewhere. And it's not going to be the same unless they knock the house down and then put a model up in its place. Would you guys be all right with that scenario if they knock the house down and then put an exact model up, including maybe even the replica furniture?
I mean, I think that'd be a good idea. They could just take the furniture from the house. I mean, have to be replica.
Yes.
And they don't even have to do the whole house. I've seen some court cases where they do build something in like a warehouse.
Yeah.
And they just have like the layout of the bedroom, the hallway, the kitchen. But this one's gonna be a little bit different because they're gonna have to build the stairs to the third floor.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jaime?
Nah, man. Even if they build replica, it's not going to be the same. All the materials used, it's not going to be the same materials used for the replica. You might as well just keep the house itself. It's like if I was trying to tell you a story here at my house, right? Oh, I was here in my room looking towards my son's bedroom, and you can kind of picture it, but like you don't see exactly what I'm trying to tell you, you know. And if you take the jurors there and point exactly, this is what happened, and this is what happened. They don't have to be, you know, imagining what they're saying. You know, they can actually see where it's at. You can actually hear what was going on from the second floor to the bottom floor or to the third floor. You know what I mean? It wouldn't work. You might as well just keep the house itself.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should keep the house. You know, this doesn't look good, you know, optically, in my opinion. You know, you're looking at the situation from the outside, and it appears that the university is just trying to, you know, kind of put some makeup over a black eye, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of cover it up so that way it doesn't affect, you know, any future income, you know, by not having you know, students attend their college possibly. Even though I think that I thought I read somewhere that the University of Idaho's students went up after, I think after his arrest, after Bryan Kohberger's arrest for this past fall. I think it was higher than it was the year before. So I don't know. I don't know how true that is. I read that somewhere. Let me know. I know you guys will if I'm wrong in the live chat.
For sure.
Attends.
So I don't know, man. I think they should keep it up. You know, at least wait until you get a trial date. I mean, I kind of understand it if they get a trial date and they said, all right, it's going to be tried in the summer of 2025 or something crazy like that. Then all right, I get it. You know, that's a whole another year. But at least wait until, you know, there's a trial date.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you think that there's not one coming up anytime soon. You know, do you think that they would know that?
I don't know, or if there's a plea being handled right now. You know?
That's true too.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand. You know, when it comes down to like, oh, it's a reminder of what happened at this place. You know, but like the families of the victims do not want the house taken down. That should tell you that it ain't about that. You know.
Yeah.
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 I think it was costing them somewhere in the net worth of $100K a year or more for security.
I mean, that's not a lot when you think about it. That's like, you know, 2 extra students signing tuition there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The pencils.
Right. So I mean, it's, you know, their attendance or their and the amount of students that are now attending there has gone up. So is their income. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just think it should be up. It looks really bad, in my opinion. It makes the university look bad. It makes, in my opinion, the prosecution. I don't know if it makes them look bad, but the prosecution's okay with knocking it down. What do you think that? How does that make you think the prosecution looks? We'll start off with you, Big Blues. I see Jaime's struggling real quick.
No problem. I think the prosecution, they have a sense of what they. Well, maybe there's other ways to try to show the jury the sound effects in that house. They might have some, and even though the same, they have recordings. They might have, you know, when the FBI went in to do their specs. I mean, they might have had some recordings of somebody yelling, screaming, and they can play it back to the people. It's not the same though, but
Yeah, it really ain't. What do you think, Jaime?
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like they're confident in what they have, like, as evidence, and probably the 3D rendering too. You know,
Yeah.
and no, they feel so confident that they're letting it get demolished, right, on the 28th. Is it?
Yeah, 28th of December.
Yeah, so I think that's what it is. I think they just feel confident that they have enough evidence. I think they have enough of the renderings, 3D models, and everything like that to show the jurors exactly what's going on, and walk them through the whole incident.
Yeah.
Though I still think it's a bad choice, but I mean, I think that's how confident they are.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking too, is like maybe perhaps it's a show of confidence. Like, they got him dead to rights, right? Let's kind of pour through what we think they know and what they do know, right? So they know that his DNA was found underneath the body of the victim. And, I think that evidence is going to end up staying, right? I don't see that evidence going anywhere. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you know what? Somehow, some way, Ann Taylor's going to get it thrown out. The IgG comes after, the IgG is used or is created by an SNP profile. The SNP profile comes after the STR profile. In fact, the SNP profile needs the STR profile to be created, right? So I've never received a briefing that was better than being at the scene. True story, true crime web. That is 100%. That is 100%. What was I saying, Blue? I know you were paying attention. I mean, what was
about the DNA being created with an SNP file?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, because of that, that's not part of the fruit of the poisonous tree. The fruit of the poisonous tree comes with what's connected to it. It has to happen first. So if the STR profile was somehow, corrupted or thrown out, then the SNP profile would be thrown out because the SNP profile came after the fact. You know what I'm saying? We got a that one's Hymas. Just a little preview of what we're doing. Typically, what we're going to be doing on Friday nights, we're going to be taking calls that's not related to the true crime. But since there's some news in the Bryan Kohberger case, we're bringing it up today. So Micro Kimmy comes in with a $9.99 super chat. I really feel like there's a movement in this case behind the scenes. It's no coincidence that the judge got the IgG and this happened. I agree with Jaime. They're confident in the evidence that they have. I agree. What are some of the things that the pro-burgers say as far as reasonable doubt when it comes to Bryan Kohberger with the evidence that's there? They talk about, well, let's talk about it first. The white car seen in the area that looks like Bryan Kohberger's. There's 22,000 of those in the area. It could have been anybody's car. What do you think? There's a sunroof, which there ain't. What do you think that there's possibly that they may have that could prove that this was in fact indeed Bryan Kohberger on that aspect? No, that it was like for instance, if we let me give you an example. So right now the excuse for the pings, right, is that they're not accurate. The locations have a 27-mile accuracy, yada yada yada. But we know that guy mentioned earlier that means his phone is on, and if he had agreed, for certain apps to have his locations, then law enforcement is going to know exactly where he's at. So that's going to show and prove, that it was possibly him. What do you think law enforcement could have when it comes to the car that we don't know about yet that they could have had after the fact?
I'm not really sure, but I know, like, to make it to...
Wait, what?
What?
I just read this comment. I want some Julio's chips.
Yeah. I think to prove the fact that the pings are accurate, they could just... Obviously, when he got stopped for tailgating, they could just look that up too, right?
Yeah. They can prove that it's pretty accurate based on a couple of things on that one, and then I guess there was they say it in the PCA, like when he goes and gets a cup of coffee the day of the murders, or the day that the bodies are discovered. He goes and gets a cup of coffee at a place called Kate's Cup of Coffee or something like that down near Washington or down south, right? And what ends up happening is his phone pings him there, and they're able to corroborate his location with the camera, the surveillance putting him there at that location.
But when it comes to the car, I mean, the only thing that could tell him that was his was just what does it? Well, that it wasn't you. You couldn't even tell if it was him or not. But I'm saying, like, the car itself, the only identifying thing that had it was a missing license plate, front license plate.
Mhm.
I went back and checked the other the stops that he got, the traffic stops that he did that they got on him. And
Yeah.
I checked to see if I could find any other maybe like a dent or a scratch or anything close to the door, because that's where you can see a little bit more, right? But I
Mhm.
couldn't see anything else. I mean, and plus, like, we still don't know what other videos or pictures or anything else that they have in evidence. We're just talking about, the car that we saw on the, that they showed us,
Yeah.
and we're going after that. But other than that, like, I don't know how they would um prove that that was actual his car besides the phone pings.
Right. What do you think, Blue? What evidence do you think that they could have that would indicate that that was his car out there? That would be more solid.
Well, simple. We don't have all the evidence of the camera footage and the photos of surveillance around the town. All they need to do is compare if they see a white car traveling down the street to the times that his phone turned back on. And if they have enough camera footage and footages to retrace it back where it came from, there you go.
Yeah, but that only proves that he was south of Moscow at 4:48 and that he was at Pullman at 2 something. For me, what it means is when you read the PCA, it says from numerous amounts of footage, right? We only know of a little bit of footage that they utilize. Well, let me reframe that. We only know a little bit of footage that they utilize in the probable cause affidavit. It starts off at 3:26 where he's on Indian Hills Drive, right behind the police station. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the first time they saw him, right? And or that doesn't necessarily mean that later on, after reviewing more cameras, that they didn't find him later. So one thing that they could possibly have is they could have him leaving, Pullman, going one direction, and then coming into Moscow at another time. And if they can follow that car around, the biggest thing is going to be like, all right, what are the chances that another white Elantra gets on that one road that leads directly to Pullman? It doesn't have a front license plate. It gets to Moscow and his car never shows up. And then it's found later, south of Moscow. I think that's going to be hard to explain if they have something like that.
Yeah. Or this is a good theory too, because he is part of an apartment. Most apartments require your tags or your sticker on your window. And if they can see it off of cameras or reflections, they can prove more that it's his car.
That's true. That is true. All right. So what else is said about the Bryan Kohberger case? The DNA. The DNA, that's one of the biggest things. But before we get into the DNA thing, Jaime, you had wanted to talk about something. We spoke about this before the show. I want to give you the mic and the time to do so.
Oh damn! I didn't know I was gonna get a whole segment. I wasn't really looking for a segment. I thought we are just gonna talk about the phone pings a little bit, and I think we already had that. But I mean, even when like they were saying that he supposedly was using gloves to throw out trash and clean the car and all that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and everybody was saying, oh, maybe he's a germaphobe, or he doesn't want to touch stuff, especially because of COVID or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if, like, in the surveillance footage of the what's it called, that coffee place,
Yeah.
was he wearing gloves?
I don't know. I think there was rumored. I'm not sure if I read this or it was rumored or if it was a source that came out, but the video that or surveillance, they have him at Albertsons that he's wearing latex gloves. But I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But I think he was wearing them everywhere, including, when he was arrested. And Gail brings up a great point. You know, there could be tire marks there
Nowhere. Oh,
at the scene. Yeah, that could match back up to his.
Okay, yeah, that exactly. Like you can use that too, but like wasn't it, like snowing at the same time, or there was snow still out?
In certain areas there was snow. Like, you know, I know a lot of people look at the Banfield image or video and say, "Look, there's no snow because we don't see any on the ground." And what they've failed to recognize is that that part of the field or that part of the area is exposed to the sun, and during the daytime is going to melt. Now back there, where you know behind the house, there's a bunch of trees and it's also inclined. And so in those type of scenery or that type of scene, the sun doesn't directly hit it all the time. So you have this snow area back there. So some of the parts had snow, some of the parts didn't. It just kind of depends on where you were at. I think the front of the house had less than the back. Hope you're all right, my man.
I mean, my throat, man, it feels weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was gonna ask if it can actually see the if he had gloves and at the store and at the coffee place, because then it would just look weird to use them a certain or not use them during one of those purchases
Yeah.
or visits to one of those stores. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, if his sister did say something about it, you know, right now everybody's deal is, we don't know for sure. You know, it was a source. We're gonna find out in court. You know, if that's true or not.
And the other thing that I haven't heard anything of is his characteristics in class. Did he wear the gloves in class too?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. Might have to ask one of the PhD students that we may know. See if that was if that was a situation. But the other thing is that we're talking about, and we'll be taking calls here in a little bit, y'all. Was the DNA underneath the body of the victims? You know, there's a lot of excuses out there as to why it was there and how it got there. You know, a lot of people are saying that, you know, he could have touched something, somebody could have touched something else. But the thing is, it's single source DNA. And I find it weird that his DNA is there, but not the DNA of anybody else. What are y'all's thoughts?
It has to be direct contact, right?
I don't know if it has to be direct contact, but if it's inside the button, like,
yeah,
how does it get in there?
I don't know.
Like if it wasn't his, if it was transferred in there, you know, if we had a button, does anybody have a button here? Like a snap?
Yeah, we're here.
All right. So it was inside.
You gotta go like this, right?
Yeah. And like
over here.
Yeah. I don't understand where the where they would, how would we get in there? Oh, shit. All right, I'm gonna move you right here. I'm gonna show that button real quick. All right, so it was inside there. Like, how does it get inside the snap of the button? You get what I'm saying? Like, now I know that when you buy a brand new one, and it was said on the show last time, they can be kind of hard to snap in and snap out, right? So I would assume somebody getting the getting that knife for the first time is going to be snapping it in, snapping it out. But I just find it weird that it's his DNA on the inside of that, right? It's not anybody else's. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was somebody else's DNA in there too. I would be more inclined to say, all right, you know, he may have shook hands with this guy and that's how it got in there. But
that's the location of it's crazy.
And it was Kohberger wearing gloves, not like, you know, you would assume it'd be the other guy's DNA that was in there if that was the case, because Kohberger was known to wear gloves. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I think that's going to be a problem. You know, I know a lot of people can say, you know, touch DNA, this and that, but the defense is going to have to come up with a reasonable solution as to how it got in there that proves reasonable doubt. Right?
Because even with any other knife, see, you still have to press something to release it.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah, I
kind
don't
of
know
knife
for
is
sure.
that, Boo? That look kind of crazy.
It's a curved electrician knife.
Is that made
It's
out of rhino?
No, it's all aluminum.
Oh, okay. I look like
Hey,
the.
can you show that on here?
It's
Well, we'll
uh,
see later on if it's restricted.
a
right.
nice Klein
Nah, it's actually pretty
with a
cool,
nice
man.
curved edge.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Yeah, nothing illegal about that, except for the person holding it. Just kidding.
Yeah,
I don't
um,
need
mine's not
this.
that big. Mine's just a,
Yeah.
you know.
oh, nice, nice. And everybody got knives here, ready to fight. I'm over here with a stylus pen.
I got a couple actually. I don't know where the hell the other ones are.
And
But
I was looking for my
Hopefully they're not in Bryan Kohberger's position.
right.
elk carving knife. That one's somewhere around here.
So, but yeah, I just think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that we don't know about that they know about. Right? They have all the details um, on his what he was up to. You know, the WSU stuff, the problems he was having. You know, those are going to come out if they happen. I know a lot right now. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we don't know if it happened. We don't know if it happened." But we're going to find out if it did. It's going to come
Yeah,
to light.
they're real bad.
Yeah, they're going to testify. We're going to find out, you know, what he was up to leading up to his arrest. We're going to find out the problems that he had. We're going to find out who he had problems with. And if it comes out to light that he was having problems with women, how's that going to make him look?
No bueno. No bueno.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good look on him. And so, you know, that's going to come to light. His work history is going to come to light. They're going to look at every job that he got fired from or was forced to resign. You know, that might be theory or whatever the case may be now, right? But that doesn't mean that we're not going to eventually find out about those things. And so, you know, we're going to hear those things. We're going to know that we're going to know the reason why he was forced to resign at his at his security job. You know, did it have to do with issues following or stalking women? There seems to be a characteristic that's following him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then that's the case. I bring that out. It's gonna not look good at all. It's not gonna work in his favor. I'll tell you that.
No, not at all. You know what I mean? And so, like, I know a lot of people right now, because there's no evidence that's we don't, well, let me rephrase that, because we don't know all the evidence, you know, are holding on to this bit of hope that it's not going to come to light. And I mean, you can hope on to that, but I think it's going to be kind of true. I think everything's going to come out being very factual. You know what I mean? You look at his defense, it's hard. It's not an innocent man's defense. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean?
Like I said, if it was me since the beginning, I was for sure no involvement. I've been screaming it to the stars.
Yeah. I mean, him talking or not really isn't an indication of guilt or anything. I don't think, you know, because whether I did something or not, the smartest thing to do is not to talk, regardless of anything. You know, get a lawyer. That's always what they tell you. So, you know, he was in criminal justice. He probably understands that. So I don't think that is a sign of guilt. You know, I don't think him not saying or not guilty, you know, him standing silent was a sign of guilt or any of those things. You know, I don't think so. Once we got an answer as to why they did it, you know, they were him and his defense team were trying to. Basically, they were. So what I'm looking for, protesting the verdict for the grand jury or whatever. I'm not the verdict. They were protesting the grand jury. They thought that if he pled, that was agreeing that the grand jury was done correctly. And so, you know, I get it. I don't think that those are reasons why he's guilty. I think the evidence that there is against him says that he's probably did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Even from the beginning, we're in that same situation where we didn't know if it was him or someone else, but as soon as a little bit of the facts came out and the evidence came out and it started pointing towards him, then it's like, oh, he might not be so innocent as we thought.
Yeah. I mean, there might be reasons why they're prolonging this case so much, in hopes that maybe perhaps they put out so much fake reasonable doubt out there, utilizing certain avenues to put out misinformation, maybe, perhaps. And from there, they're hoping that it creates enough of a stir publicly that the prosecution might want to take a plea, or make a plea. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe perhaps he's feeling that, if this goes to court, given the evidence they have against him, I mean, that might be the strategy here, is that to do that.
The only thing
go ahead.
I said the only thing you can plead for is life. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, yeah, because right now they put the death penalty on the board.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way.
Hey, how would you guys feel if he ended up pleading out and we got no answers to anything? What do you think that would do to the case, or to what people think?
I don't know. It really doesn't
conspiracies.
matter for me. I think it's more, the victim's family that need all the answers,
Right. But like,
I mean, they're the ones. They're gonna, if he pleads out, if they don't hear anything about the situation, that's kind of brutal. Even though like hearing whatever happened is brutal itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think sometimes families need that closure,
Or even if all we got was just he pled guilt, he pled out, he admitted that he was guilty, and that was the end of it. Like, I think that, without the BTK style, hearing that went on as to what happened, why it happened, and when it happened, and we would never seen the evidence, right? I don't know if we could. I mean, I'm guessing you can get a freedom of information and get all the evidence. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that stuff works. But, I think you would probably not see majority of the evidence against them. And I think that would allow for conspiracies to continue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Isn't part of a plea deal is to confess and tell how, why, etc. Not always. It's just to confess. At the end of the day, that's all they need, right?
I mean, even if they confess, it could be something different,
Yeah.
I mean, in BTK case, he went in through detail of every single crime he did.
Yeah.
Do we know if that's almost every single little thing he said was true? For the most part, yeah. But I'm sure there's different things he kind of kept for himself,
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot that he kept to himself. They found, when it comes to BTK, they found drawings of other victims that, he's got a lot of victims that we don't know about.
Yeah, true.
And the reason he doesn't want to talk about some of them is speculated because in those states, those are death penalty states. And I believe he's in Kansas is where he committed majority of his crimes, if not all of them, that he's been found or convicted for. It is not. So it's interesting. You guys ready to open the phone lines up for a little bit?
Do it.
You're not gonna be in Kansas no more, Dorothy.
Oh, Big Blue, you're so funny. Wrong one. All right, let's get everybody on. So 210-209-9435. We're going to be taking one call at a time. So while somebody is talking, I will not be answering another call or any of those things. It kind of messes with the audio. So it'll be one call at a time. Give us a call if you're interested in having your theories, thoughts heard, or if you want to talk about something in particular with the case. We'll give you at least 3 minutes to talk. And then if you go over the 3 minutes, we'll be kicking you guys out. We have our first caller coming in, 270. 270, you're on the line. How's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Not too bad. Who are we talking to?
My name is Renee.
Nice to meet you, Renee. What are your thoughts and theories on everything?
Hi, Renee.
Hi. Well, I was going to say that Hold on, I'm going to mute the TV because so it doesn't echo. I have a thought about how they met
Okay.
or how he came in contact with them. And I know the Mad Greek came out and said that he never had eaten there. But that doesn't cover if he did takeout. And
That's
so
true.
if he's like, I don't know if you, I mean, I'm sure you're a grown man and you know there's always some people that you just can't be super nice to because they think you like them. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? You have to be guarded a little bit. And I feel like with his lack of experience with dating and things, if Maddie was just her normal happy self, he could have taken that as flirting and that she liked him. Do you know what I mean? And so he could have, in his mind, created a whole relationship because that's what they do sometimes. And
Yeah.
so I think it could have started from there. But I don't, does this sound crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that's possible. That he met them there. I'm not sure if he, did the, fake relationship in his mind or not, but it is quite possible that that happened, and also that he met them there at one point. He was a vegan. If you
He
put in,
was in a town and he didn't know anybody. He was there by himself. And so if he goes to pick it up one night and she's nice and he's like, oh, I'm going to do that again. And then she goes and then do you know what I mean? Like it could just become a pattern and he could have, I mean, he had nothing else to do. He didn't know anyone there.
yeah,
I don't know.
it makes the most sense if he picks somebody out by visually seeing them in person. Reason being is if
Right.
he tried to pick out somebody from the interwebs, there's going to be a trace of that. Him being on their profile, him looking at their profile, things like that could lead back to him.
Yeah.
And so you would want to do it in a way where you have burner devices, fake accounts, and you would probably not want it to be connected to your Wi-Fi. So you'd have to go to a different location when you did your stalking and your preparation. So,
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you see the route that he took when he left the house, he took a hours plus drive to get back to Pullman when it could have taken him 15 minutes. And in my opinion, he did all that work just to elude the investigation because, police are going to know that there's a wide Elantra that are in the area and they're going to see which direction it took off. They're going to go look at the surveillance cameras entering into Pullman. And if nothing comes in within a 20, 30-minute span, it probably didn't go that direction, which is why he took a little bit over an hour to get there.
But I mean, and I could see him being like, I mean, he had nothing else to do. He didn't know anyone there. He obviously lacked social skills to create friends and hang out with people. So he could have like followed them and stuff and figured out where they lived and then saw the people there and just kind of almost got obsessed or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I could see it happening like that. But I guess it sounds crazy when I say it out loud.
Yeah, it definitely does. You guys have anything for her before we let her go?
No, I totally no. I understand where she's coming from, especially because like sometimes people are nice, too nice, and other people take it as like they're flirting or they're interested in them, and it might not be the case, and the other person might get obsessed, and
right, especially if they don't have a lot of experience in that area, which he did not,
He doesn't get enough like attention from women. Also, would probably create that, that sense of, oh, like this person is actually interested in me because she's being nice. But it could be that.
Right. And then with nothing else to do to fill his time, he would just think about it more and more and fester about it. And just, I don't know, I could see somebody not in the right frame of mind latch onto that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to think about it. Maybe they were nice to him at a different vegan restaurant or at the bar. I mean, I'm pretty sure he went to places in that town. And maybe ran into
and then the Mad Greek made their statement that he didn't eat there, but he could have not, and it could be all about semantics. I mean, they're not being dishonest if they say he didn't eat there and he got takeout. I mean, you know what I mean? It's evasive, but it's not dishonest, I guess, you know.
Yeah, or
I would,
maybe he did, and they just don't want the publicity of him being there. We don't know.
true. That could be. So, okay. Well, I'll let you all get to your next people. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your
Thank
call.
you.
You have a good one.
You too. You. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Good caller. Good caller. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
What do you think? Let's say future, if he's found guilty. This is like one of those crazy questions.
Uh-huh.
What do you think his last meal would be if he gets the DP?
Oh, geez. I don't know, man. That's a weird one.
Well, first of all, vegan pizza sucks. So I don't think he'd want that.
I don't know, man. That's a good question. A boba tea. What do you think, man?
Like if it was mine or if it was BK's last meal.
BK's last meal.
Because
Okay, because it cut off when he was saying that. I just heard the last part of it. BK, it'll probably be freaking lettuce with like ranch, maybe. I don't know.
You might get a little crazy and put the fake bacon. It's not
A
real,
leather sheath. A leather sheath.
right? Pineapple. Yeah, interesting. All right, we're gonna take this call. 210. You're about to be on. 210. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey guys, it's Micro Kimmy.
Hey, Micro,
How y'all
how's it
doing?
going? We're doing well. How about
Good.
yourself?
Good, awesome. So I wanted to just give my thoughts as usual. I think early on I heard that it's possible that Bryan met the girls, or Madison and Kaylee, at a pool party, the one that Christian dude invited him to, but I don't know if that's even true. I just haven't heard it since like it all started.
Mhm.
But that's possible. And I also, in the PCA or in the search warrants, oh man, I had it pulled up too. But he or Payne, actually, here it is. It's about the phone movements, like because I had mentioned last time how I worked training tech support agents for Verizon for years, and I didn't even like make my point. I just like trailed off talking about it. But so the locations we usually like don't know locations are on. Well, we help like let people know like your location was on for this app and this app. But those locations being on, that's all that metadata from all of his apps, like that is traceable like down to a park bench. And in the PCA or the search warrant, Payne asked for cellular device interactions for GPS, not pings, but GPS coordinates within 0.5 miles of the King Road house. So, and it's redacted. So the results for that search warrant, they found something and they redacted it. So I think with the house going down, I'm really torn on it because I feel like I just kind of go with how Christy kind of posts her stuff. And I'm like, if she's okay with it, then other people should, she's not okay with it, but she's come to terms with it. And I think that out of respect, it's kind of like, people shouldn't make a huff about it too much because it's hard enough for her to come to terms with it,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they made a statement earlier, and I read it earlier. I'm not sure if you caught the beginning part of the show. And for those that are now catching in real quick, I'll re-say the statement real fast. The statement was prepared by their lawyer, Shannon. It's a statement on behalf of the Goncalves family. Let's ask this: isn't it better to have the King Road house and not need it than need the house and not have it? That's been our question for the prosecution and the University of Idaho for the entire time the demo of the King Road residence has been an issue, but why is it even up for discussion? This is one of the most horrific crimes in the University of Idaho, and the University of Idaho wants to destroy one of the most critical pieces of evidence in the case. It is also important to make note that there is now a demolition date before there is even a trial date set. That alone speaks volumes. It is obvious from the 2 recent visits to my house, both from the prosecution and the defense, that there is still evidentiary value in having the King Road house still standing. There may be additional discovery by either party that prompts one side or the other to go back to the scene of the crime. There's always been a dialogue about the 3D imaging and or they are building a model to replicate the home. First and foremost, what a waste to state money and resources. And secondly, nothing replaces the real thing. Jurors are notoriously unpredictable, and they tend to make decisions on a variety of facts and circumstances. It would be foolish for us to try and foresee what they will want or need to make a just verdict in this case. The family is stressed tirelessly to the prosecution and to the University of Idaho of the importance, evidentiary and emotionally, that the King Road house carries, but nobody seems to care. It's like screaming into a void. Nobody is listening, and everyone tells you how sorry they are for the decision, but the family's opinion isn't a priority. Victims' families have a voice and should be heard and listened to. So, I don't know if she's coming to terms with it.
I didn't hear that. I didn't catch that one. Yeah, you're right. I didn't hear that. I heard the earlier statement, that she posted on the Facebook page.
Right.
I didn't hear that. That's so true though. Like that's where I'm torn, because there's nothing like an actual jury walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch 3D renderings all day long, but that walkthrough, you can get the sound echoes off of this, and Dylan heard it from where, and like all that stuff. There's nothing like the real thing,
Yeah.
And I thought, I didn't hear that second one. I never heard that.
Yeah, this was sent to me by Christy. She sent it to me directly through text message. Yeah, I was talking to her a little bit earlier today when I found out about the demolition. I asked about her opinion and her thoughts. She told me that Shannon was going to be preparing a statement for them, and then I'd asked her, I was like, when and where are they going to release the statement so that we can talk about it, and she sent it to me, and so that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna read that over again. I also like I said in the super chat, I agree with Jaime. I think they actually have all they need, and I believe the judge, after looking through it, maybe he's like, what, I'm not gonna intercede anymore. Do what y'all want, and y'all have what you need. I don't know. I'm not a judge. I don't know how that works up there, but yeah, thank you for taking my call, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
And before you go, let me say this. I am a judge of food. And you said you like Julio's chips, and those are originally from Del Rio, where I'm from.
Nice.
I remember buying them from the owner's house. He used to have a little shed in the back of his house. And
oh my God.
He used to be making them back there, and he would talk to him and my brother would talk for like an hour before we leave. Before they built the factory.
That's crazy. I was buying them when there was just a tiny Julio's hole in the wall in San Antonio. That's when I found them first, and now they all over the stores at HEB and everything. So, they're the best. They make the hot sauce and all that stuff so good. Yeah. I love.
They used to sell them at gas stations.
Huh?
They used to sell them at the gas stations, and then you could pour nacho cheese on them. And then jalapenos and the juice.
Oh my God, I'm hungry. I'm gonna just eat this whole bag now.
All right.
Big bag too. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
Getting a food bowl over here, man.
So, real quick, there was one other thing, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion. I'm gonna merge this call 609. 609, you just got merged in, but real quick before we we talked to you. I wanted to get something out real fast. Jaime and Big Blue, when I was talking to Christy earlier, they explained to me of a situation with another creator. I haven't seen the what they're talking about. You know, they put out a statement themselves. I have an idea of who it is, but I haven't seen it. And, you know, apparently somebody was twisting some words from the victims. They made a big old statement about it, saying that there was a creator who was foreign, not from the United States, who was twisting words from the victims to create some sort of turmoil between the victims' families or something like that. I haven't actually seen the content that he put out there. I've only spoken to Christy about it. What are your thoughts about that type of stuff? Not necessarily and specifically towards that creator. Like I said, I haven't seen what he put out there, but when it comes to like creators that maybe are putting things out there, twisting some stuff, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, for me, I've seen some other channels. I'm not gonna mention them, but I've seen other channels go through that narrative. You know what I mean? Of the, saying false information and speculating on different things about the victims, and it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
Just to see kind of almost to the point where like it's to that point where like they're almost victim like blaming, victim blaming. And it's just I can't watch those, man. Like it frustrates me, it angers me to hear creators or certain creators talk about the victims in a different shade, in a different light,
Yeah, I hear you
it's
on that. Yeah, I know you've told us that sometimes when you're falling asleep, you'll listen to a certain creator to wake you up because he pisses you off.
Yeah, he gets me angry, and I wake up because I'm working, and then I'm like, man, I'm getting tired. Boom, I type in this creator's channel, and I'm right awake, pissed off, man.
Yeah.
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 No, I think it's messed up, man. Like the victims, we should let them rest in peace. I mean, I even say sometimes we talk about it sometimes too much. We should let them rest in peace, but we want justice for them.
Yeah.
And until that happens, we'll probably talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, that I just wanted to touch on it because that was a piece of conversation that we had, and we intend on having Christy and Steve on the show. We've talked about it. They're going through some stuff. It's been not the easiest ride for them since, the anniversary of the passing, and you had another holiday in there. You have another holiday coming up. So we're not pressuring them to sit down and schedule a date. But I feel that that's probably going to come up during our conversation because that is something that they want to bring up. The term that they use is grifting, and so
the
the
family's been through enough, man, and then for them to go and see channels talk about their loved ones, like in that kind of light, that's not good, man. They need some type of closure, and the longer this trial takes, the longer it's gonna take for them to get closure, and that's very sad in my opinion.
Yeah, and like I said, I haven't seen the piece of content that they're referring to. I don't know, what happened. I don't know if there was a twisted in words or any of those things. I just saw the reaction from the family, and to grant that kind of reaction from victim's family, it doesn't sound like it was very good. But I don't know what it is. I'm not giving anybody any light or publicity onto who it was or what was said. I don't know. You guys can go figure that out. But that's just our 2 cents on it. 609, you're on the air. What's going on?
What's going on, man? Hey, this is a perfect topic that I came on to. My thing is, I'm wondering, like, why does this upset anybody? Like, we're all doing the same thing. Everybody's on here speculating. They have their own personal opinions on different situations. So, of course, you're going to have your grifters, if you want to call them that. But some people feel as though Bryan is innocent. And I feel as though with the evidence that's out there, it's logical to think that he's innocent. I'm not saying that the police set him up or anything, but I'm just saying that it's logical that some people will think that he's innocent. And anybody that's bashing like Dylan Mortenson and all them, all right, y'all can bash them or do what y'all want. But I mean, in my situation, I would think that that does sound pretty funny to me. That it took a while for somebody to call 911, and if you went out your room multiple times and you say that you heard all this stuff like that, why do you keep peeking your head out the door if you're going to hear loud noises and people banging, and you're just going to tell somebody to quiet down? Why don't you just step outside and be like, what's going on out here? I live in a house too. I pay rent in here too. I'm stepping outside to see what's going on. So, like, of course, I expect everybody to have their own personal opinions. I don't get mad at anybody for having an opinion at all.
Mhm.
I don't consider anybody a grifter unless they're trying to like maliciously make money off this whole situation, or contact Steve and get him to say something, or get something out of, or say something out of that was out of context. But other than that, no, I don't consider anybody a grifter, because majority of the people that's in the YouTube community, we've been pretty respectful to the families and to the victims. We haven't bashed anybody. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't get
no,
upset about anything.
I don't think it's everybody who thinks that Bryan Kohberger is innocent that falls in line with the grifting or any of those things. I mean, and everybody does have a right to their opinion. That's not something that here and on this channel, our opinion has not so necessarily much has changed from one way or another, but it's gotten closer one way or another. Early on in this in this case, when this started going on, as the police were investigating it, and then the arrest came out, we were a little bit skeptical about Bryan Kohberger and his guilt as well. But as the information started to come out, the warrants started, make a clearer picture as far as the route that the police were going, what they're looking at, what evidence they may have against him. And then, you look at the evidence that we do know that they have, it makes it very difficult for him not to be him. But, you make valid points when it comes to Dylan Mortenson and Bethany Funke. And I think that they can be questioned, or their actions can be questioned without, blaming somebody without knowing everything first on their aspect, because, the police have investigated them. They were already under investigation, and they were cleared. And so, they don't necessarily need to be cleared by YouTubers or social media content creators. The police, law enforcement, the professionals already did. So,
and that was where, to me, that, and Goncalves family, see, that's the thing about the Goncalves family. They speak, and then like something changes along the lines and they change something else. And they contradict themselves a lot. Like in the beginning, they felt like everybody was being cleared too fast, and then now everybody is perfectly fine. And then you find out that they think something else. Like that was always my big thing about them. And then also my big thing about the channel and them was, y'all said on the channel, if his car came back clean, that you guys was going to start to think that, there's a strong possibility that he might be innocent. But then when his car came back clean, you came back and still doubled down on that he was guilty. So I'm just like, what is changing? That what, you're so strong, you're so fixated on the DNA, the genealogy?
So, answer those things first in order. The first one being, the family and the issues that you're having with them. Try to put yourself in their shoes. You lost a daughter, and in the manner that they did, I don't think you'd be thinking clearly all the time, 100% of the time. And when you're put in front of the cameras and you're put in front of people and you're frustrated because the police aren't giving you answers, you have no idea what's going on, you're going to say some things. I think that, people cope in certain different ways. And when it comes to the Goncalves family, I think one of the ways that they cope is by talking about it. And I wouldn't put a lot of weight as far as the accuracy goes when they're saying some things out of emotion. That's the first thing. And as far as why we still think he did it, it's not just solely because, the there's no DNA in the car. Yeah, I said that was going to be a huge hurdle. What happened afterwards is we had a forensic death investigator on the channel, a medical. What was her title again, man? It was pretty crazy. It was a medical something forensic death investigator.
Yeah, that was the one she was on with Lana. Yeah.
No. She was only on our channel, and she was a legit forensic death investigator, and what she was talking about and kind of explained to us as far as how a person could clean up the scene and not leave any sign as far as evidence of a cleanup. First and foremost, if he used some sort of bleach additive, it dissipates after 24 hours. So we're not going to know about it 7 weeks later. And so when I found that out, I was like, all right, that makes sense. And then, she kind of explained that if you're in the know-how, if you've been trained forensically, which, to be a PhD student in criminology, having gone to DeSales to get your master's degree and seeing the outline of classes that he has to take, he was trained forensically and he knows about forensics. So, what's harder to believe? Let me ask you this. What's harder to believe that if we take the DNA off of the sheath, right? Where do you think a transfer of DNA would happen? During a struggle when you're in close, connection to somebody, or in your car after the fact when you've had 7 weeks to clean it?
What I have on the transfer of DNA, I really feel like I don't.
No.
I don't think
I want you to answer
that.
I want you to answer that question. What's more likely to have a transfer of DNA?
Of course, it's going to be in a struggle.
All right. So if there's no transfer of DNA in the struggle, right, where you most likely would have seen it, why is it so hard to believe a person who was able to keep their DNA off of a person during a struggle 4 times? Why is it so hard to believe that they weren't able to clean up their car or have prepared their car ahead of time?
But at no point in time did they ever say he ever cleaned up his car. They tried to insinuate that he cleaned up his car in PA. That was the issue that I had.
Right. No, I understand that.
They said the only time he ever cleaned up his car was in PA. And they was dumping trash in somebody else's trash can. He was up at 4 a.m. sorting out trash, which is no body cam footage and no nothing else of that. And then normally when you bust in somebody's house, you normally supposed to have your body cam footage on because that's standard police protocol now. So where's that at? No. It is now. It's a standard now, especially in PA. I don't know. You might live somewhere else. I live in New Jersey. I'm right over next to PA.
Where do you put a body cam?
I'm in New Jersey. Where
do you put a body cam at, my man?
On your body.
On your chest, right? Do you know what SWAT wears? SWAT doesn't wear. Your SWAT team doesn't wear. If you're going into somebody's house, where's your body cam supposed to be at again? Right. It's supposed to be on your chest. But if you have a SWAT team, there's usually a gun, a taser, another life protector thing on there. I know personally what a SWAT member would wear. Now, should they have had a body cam footage? Yeah, but what does that have to do with his innocence? How does not having a body cam in Pennsylvania say that he's innocent?
But where's the body cam footage of him sorting the trash and the other trash?
Well, they didn't have his name, my man. They didn't have his name till December 19th. I think what you're misunderstanding is that you think that they had Bryan Kohberger's name the day and the moment that he committed the crime, and they were following him and watching him.
Body cam footage in PA that they said that they.
So what could PA do?
And he was sorting.
All right. Well, what could PA do that is going to affect this case? Did they find the murder weapon at his house? Did they find?
No,
did they find the clothes at his house?
No, they didn't find anything.
Right,
PA ain't find nothing. So
okay,
PA,
so what's
he was
the
cleaning
point?
PA.
Right. So
and
what's
if
the
you
point
want to be real, he was cleaning Idaho.
What's the
Wasn't
point?
he cleaning Idaho?
What's the point?
They didn't find anything in Idaho. They ain't find nothing in his apartment, and they ain't find nothing in the car.
So what's the point?
Thing there is
I had to
confusion
remove him because he's getting a little bit too argumentative. But what's the point of having the body cam footage if there's nothing to show on it? Big Blue and Jaime, I'm going to ask you that, guys. Like
they're saying the body cam because these are the people who believe that they framed Kohberger.
Oh, so Pennsylvania framed Kohberger.
No, that everybody's in cahoots with the FBI.
Why would Pennsylvania frame Kohberger for Idaho?
Because there's crooked cops in Idaho that have connections with the FBI, and then the FBI has connections with the Pennsylvania. This is where they're going. That no matter what they do, they're always going to find some way to set up and frame Kohberger. That's
Yeah.
what they're using. That nobody can. Oh, they place. That's what they got. So and so, or they place it. That's why they don't have nothing there. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
one of the
just
things that was a little confusing when he was trying to get through, when he was rummaging through the trash, it
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be on body cam footage. It'd be on surveillance footage, which we don't know that exists. It probably does exist because that's when they would have been watching him. The body
Yeah.
cam footage wouldn't show him rummaging through trash because when they broke into his house, he was probably asleep or somewhere in his house. He wasn't
Yeah.
at the neighbor's rummaging through the trash. Why would you carry your neighbor's trash inside your house and be rummaging through it? That's where I think he's a little confused at.
Yeah.
I think he's getting body cam footage with surveillance
Confused.
footage
Yeah. Yeah.
confused.
And it just kind of, like I said, it boils down to like, what is it that PA can do, or how do they affect the case? You know, like I hear a bunch of stuff like, oh, did you know that an ISP officer did this in this case? And I'm like, so what? You know, so what? How does he affect the case? You know, should he be on the force? Should he be, doing things? Probably not. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I have no idea why people think he's,
Mhm.
he's shady or not. But what was his or her, and part into this investigation? For what do we know? The FBI is who did the locations on the pings. The FBI is who did the IGG and came up with his name. The FBI is who said it was a freaking Hyundai Elantra. I would be more accustomed to believe that it was an FBI agent that framed Kohberger. But then you have to ask yourself, when could that FBI agent have done it? When could they have put the DNA on the knife sheath? If the knife sheath was collected day one and FBI wasn't there day one, right? And it gets signed off, it gets boxed and it gets sealed, and on all parts of that box are signatures. That way, when it gets to Boise, to the state lab, and they collect it, they can ensure that it wasn't tampered with. So where's
Well,
there's a lot of parts to this, that the frame aspect of it. It's not just, oh, it makes sense because he didn't do it. No, there's more to it. Big Blue, what do you got?
I'm gonna say, and the other part where we suppose we said that if the car was empty, he was innocent.
Yeah,
I never believed that.
that's true.
I mean, I was always against that theory. Everybody has their own opinion, but to me, the skills that he has from the school he went to,
Uh-huh.
he would be able to conceal evidence
Hold on.
before he got
Hold
in
on,
his
Blue.
car.
303, I put you on. Can you mute the background real quick, and we'll get to you once Blue's done talking. All right, Big Blue, what's up? So,
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say was like, I never based my guilt charge on him on the car being clean because to me, he had plenty of time to clean the car when he was not being watched. Because remember, he wasn't starting to be watched the first couple weeks.
he wasn't watched until December 19th, my man. That's when the IGG, the IGG came back with his name, December 19th. If you go read a couple of, the articles that were out there, one of them states that Howard Bloom had a pregnant smile December 19th or December 20th because of the white Elantra that was crashed in Eugene, Oregon. Why would they think that the vehicle in Eugene, Oregon was Bryan Kohberger's vehicle if they were watching him and knew that he was in freaking Pennsylvania by then? Why would they need to go and look at license plate readers on his way to Pennsylvania to find him? And then also confirm
there wasn't
it.
a radar.
Right. He wasn't on their radar. He wasn't on the radar until December 19th. So it's not like, all right, we know who he is now. Let's go back in time and watch him clean his car. It doesn't work that way.
What's
This
it
is
called?
deja vu.
When it comes to the DNA in the car, I remember you saying, or not you, but like I remember they put on on the thing that it said lack of DNA evidence, right?
Yeah, it says total lack of
Something
DNA
like
evidence. Yeah.
that. Would that be because it was cleaned and then you can't? It's not usable.
I mean, it could be. It could be that that there was no DNA in the car, right? I mean, that's what the
Or could it be
argument
that
is.
there was a sort of a DNA, but they couldn't produce anything out of it?
That's possible too.
Because of the cleaning agents and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's 100% possible that they could have found something, but it was too degraded due to things like that. Yeah, we don't know those things. That's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they didn't say that they didn't find nothing. It just says kind of the lack of it.
That's true. That is true. 303, you're on the air. What is going on?
Is it me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Hey, so I'm new to this forum, and I just want to say, if you could remember back when Alec Murdaugh juror did the site visit of the scene, and he saw, well, he walked the scene and he saw the threshold that he found was something that could have been tripped over, that was a trajectory or a angle, or I don't know what you call it, but the angle that the gun killed the son. And so my point is, okay, this is my point. The point is, if the jurors don't have the opportunity to go to...
Are you still there?
And
oh, there you go. Sorry,
yeah,
you there was a long pause there. So you're basically saying if the jurors don't go out there, they're not going to get the perspective needed that they got in the Murdaugh trial. Is that correct?
The point is that there might be something that we don't even see, we don't even think about, and they go out there and they see, and it's something like the Alec Murdaugh case, where he found the threshold that was tripped on and found the trajectory of the gunshot. It's similar to that. Well, if the jurors don't have the opportunity to go to the scene of the house, the Idaho house, there might be something that they could see that we don't even know about, that we don't even think about.
Yeah. I mean, that possibility is definitely there. And, that's
why it's important. That's why it's important to keep the house up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're absolutely right. Well, I appreciate your call, 303. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good night. Real quick, before we're probably going to take just maybe one more call here in a second, but before we do, I saw somebody put something right here. Mitch Girl says a retired detective said that the only way that DNA would not be in the vehicle is if BK set fire to it. There was no DNA, period. So, a retired detective can say a lot of things, but a current forensic death investigator saying something differently, I think I would take the word of the forensic officer over the retired detective who's, maybe perhaps, I don't know how long he's been retired for, but, technology and investigating tools have changed drastically in the last few years. So I don't know about that. And I don't know what he said or didn't say, but, nobody was actively bleeding in Bryan Kohberger's car. Bryan Kohberger wasn't actively bleeding. Nobody's life was taken in Bryan Kohberger's car. So the only blood that was taken into that house, or into that car, I'm sorry, if he kept his clothes on, was what was hit in the front, right? He stabbed him with a knife, so he had to be in close proximity. It appears based on the blood stains on the bed that the majority of the victims were laying down. So, if he's over on top of them, then the blood's going to hit him probably in the chest and abdomen area. It's not going to go down to his feet. So he doesn't have to worry about the brake pedal or any of those things. If he doesn't put his seat belt on, if he can just basically keep all of the, area of where DNA is going to be at is going to be on his chest, stomach, then that's the only area that he has to prep prior to going in there. I think that if maybe perhaps this wasn't a planned case, and I think we also have to remember when it was that this homicide detective made this statement. Maybe it was before, when he thought that, that maybe Kohberger's motive had to do with something with rage, right? Maybe ex-boyfriend was mad or something like that. In those type of situations, there's not that pre-planning. There aren't those things, right? So there's a lot of context that comes into what one person says at one time. What I say at one time, based on the information that's there at that time, I might say something, and then I might be given information later that would change my mind. I don't stick to one narrative, or I'm not biased, as much as people think that may be the case. It's not.
Look at the Richard Allen case.
Yeah, that's a clear one.
It's a good example.
Yeah, I can't be a biased cop defender in this case and a cop hater in the next, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so when it comes to those things, it's just, that's what it's at. What are your thoughts, Blue? What are your thoughts on everything?
I mean, they did get samples from the car and it came back negative, right? For DNA.
Yeah.
My theory is that he went in there prepped. You're a criminology student and you don't know how to. First of all, the DNA in this is a rookie mistake.
Right.
But the parts that he did do right was there was no transfer DNA from him from the house to the car.
Or from him to the bodies.
Yeah. Could he be wearing the jumpsuit? Yes. Could he be wearing gloves? Yes. Was he wearing a mask? We found out yes. Could be wearing booties? Yes. There's no shoe prints. There's no blood trails. When you walk out the house, if anybody that's worked in those kind of fields should know, it takes less than 30 seconds to take that suit off.
Oh, yeah.
It takes less than a second to take a pair of gloves off. It takes less than a second to take booties off. Where would the DNA transfer if you took it off before you got in your car?
Well, I mean, you brought up a great point, and 509, we'll get to you in a second. You're backstage, and 509 is going to be the last call of the night, guys. But you bring up a great point. There's no blood trail outside of the house, right? There's nothing there. So what did he do? Did he, if we're expecting this blood bath in his car, shouldn't there be a trail leading to the car?
Yeah.
What are we expected to believe, that he washed the floor too on the outside?
He used a hover.
He must have done something to prevent that blood from getting everywhere, right? I mean, if you don't see it on the stairs, you're not seeing it on the walls, you're not seeing it on the floor, inside the house, outside the house, that must mean he prepared somehow in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we so surprised if we don't see all that inside the house? Why are we surprised when we don't see it inside of his vehicle? Why are we surprised when he is in struggle hand to hand in close contact with 4 people and there's no DNA transfer from him to them? Why are we surprised that he is not, that he's also able to keep DNA from them going with him out of the house? Wore a protective suit. He had to. Whoever did this had to have worn a protective suit, had to have made premeditated moves to commit this crime. You know what I'm saying? This isn't somebody that's mad or anger, or somebody said something about him while he was drunk and he's full of rage and stuff like that. This is not what that is. There's a camera recording audio 50 feet away. If this was a rage incident, you'd hear the person barging into the house, the yelling, the screaming, the this and that, the sound of rage. You don't hear that. What you hear is quiet. You hear whimpering, you hear whispers. You hear what's the sound of a methodical killer going through a house, taking the lives of 4 people.
Yeah, I think if it was rage, it would have been to that person itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if people would go to a different room or different floor and take their lives of those people if it was just towards one person.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. 509, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey guys. Okay, thanks for taking my call, and just bear with me.
Okay.
I just have a couple of things I wanted to bring up. So I live out in this area. At the time this all happened, I was probably 35 minutes to 40 minutes away from the house.
Mm-hmm.
I have driven by the house several times, sat in front of the house. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, just as far as the demolition of this house, I agree with everyone pretty much. I think it's kind of insane because, on TV, if you see the pictures, the photos, the footage, whatever, on TV of the property, you cannot tell how close all of the surrounding properties are. Those apartments are so close. Houses, I mean, the streets are so narrow. The cars parked on the street are not far from the front of the house at all. So when you actually see it in person, it is very difficult to not wonder how on earth did not more people hear what happened, because it's crazy how close everything is to this house. So I think for jurors to walk through, to process this and ask themselves the same questions, I think that's really important. Now I've gone back and forth with, is he guilty? Is he not? Is there enough evidence? Is there not? I don't know. So because I live out in the area, I'm a little further away now, but I am still in Eastern Washington. And I was told just yesterday by someone who claims, and I'm not saying I believe this person, I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is I heard from an individual that claims he knows someone very close to the case, and there are thousands of pieces of evidence against Bryan, and that he will take a plea, that it will never go to trial, that he will take a plea. And then shortly after I hear this, we hear that the home is going to be demolished at the end of December. So I guess my question is, oh my gosh, could that be because U of I everybody knows he's going to have to take a plea because there is all of this evidence that none of us know about? I mean, is that why they're just moving forward with demolishing the home? Seems kind of weird. I just seems kind of a coincidence. I don't know if that's been considered or what your thoughts are on that.
As far as him taking a plea, I'll say this. I've talked to some people who are close to the case or the families or the victims. And I was asked that once randomly, like, hey, what do you think about him taking a plea? And I thought it was weird about the timing in which I was asked that. It seemed as if somebody knew something. And so I don't know. As far as I think it's possible. I think they're going to offer him one, especially by who it came from. It sounds like they're going to offer him one. I don't know if he's going to take it or not. But, as far as the thousands pieces of evidence, I believe it. I mean, they had, what was it, like 52 terabytes worth of stuff against him?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I guess it's just, there's a lot of us who, aren't trained professionals in this, and we feel like we need more, but we can't get more because of the gag orders and all of this. So I've kind of vacillated, one way or the other. But then I hear something like this, and it does make me wonder now if there is all of this that they're just not releasing, and will we ever know if he did take a plea? I agree. I don't think he would. I think he's just going to write it out. Either way, I think he's just. I believe he'll probably write it out. What does he have to? I mean, other than obviously, you're looking at the death penalty, but I don't know. My guess is he would go to trial. I don't know. It's such a hard one, and of course, out here, that's all anyone talks about. So, but the home itself being demolished, I really think jurors need to walk through that place and just see for themselves how close it is, and how on earth were not more people aware of what was happening that night. So
go ahead, Jaime. Oh, yeah. What that tells me though is if as how close it was and how quiet that night was, there was several neighbors who were awake during that time also. So there's not just the audio from 50 feet away. You had, I believe Enid Hart said he was awake. There was another lady saying that she was playing Minesweeper for days that night, and that it was eerily quiet as well that night. And you're not the first person that's told me how close and compact that area is. So what that tells me is that somebody went in there methodically, quietly, and very much well planned out, and took out each of these people individually, or obviously there was 2 in one room twice, but hit them in places where they couldn't scream, and from what we understand from the coroner, the torso was the target in multiple for all the victims. And so I'm not sure how much fighting a person can do, how much screaming a person can do if the first blow is to a lung and it collapses and it's starting to fill with blood. I don't think you can scream very much in that situation.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I did want to ask this. It was just something I heard the other day, and I don't know if I've heard you guys bring it up or not, but someone brought up the point about cross contaminate, in regards to, was there one killer, or was there more, or was there more than one? Was everyone killed by the same individual? So and this could be under gag order, I don't know, but the cross contamination between the victims. So, you know what I mean? Was like, if it was just the one individual, is their blood shared? I mean, do they all have each other's blood or DNA because knife was used on all of them? Or do a couple of the victims, you know what I mean? Or is DNA missing from 1 or 2 of them? I mean, I just thought that was a really good point to bring up.
Go ahead, Em.
I think I brought it up way in the beginning of how they can determine the order it went. But if he went from one victim to the other one, with the same weapon, then I would think there would be DNA from that victim brought to the other one in one of the wounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then those 2 victims probably have the DNA on the third victim, and so forth.
I mean, you're going
right, and that
he took the lives of 4 people, so there's a good possibility that metal fragments were left in the bodies, and they probably can match those fragments up together.
Right, and I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think that this person's point was, again, when you're trying to weigh, was it him? Was it more than him? Was it, all of that? I think the point that was trying to be made was, do they know if all of the victims, shared if it was, as you're talking, everybody had the shared fragments or blood or whatever it was, so that they're satisfied that it was one individual, or are a couple missing from one? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Go ahead, Blue.
One of the things I wanted to say was they can tell by the flesh wounds or the wounds that the knife left if it's the same weapon. So the coroner report would say that.
Kind
The
of.
other thing
It
is,
depends. It depends because remember, our forensic death examiner
Yeah.
stated that
if it's bent or broken.
right, if that every
Make
time it
different-
would manipulate or make small differences in the blade, and that would make a difference in wounds.
Yeah, but
the
I
other
think
thing is,
the fact that not the fact, but I think what they're trying to do is the fact that if blood DNA wasn't on one of the bodies from a different victim, then there would be another weapon, right? That's what they're trying to say.
Or another person. I mean, it'd be very difficult if somebody,
that's what I was gonna say. There'd be two people that were.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would have to be
leave
because
no evidence behind.
right, even if he used like a different weapon, he still has blood on his chest. Right, he's going to have blood on his chest and his torso and his arms, and so when he goes into contact with the other victims, there would be that transfer there as well. So it wouldn't just be the fragments of the knife either. So I'm sure there's plenty of ways to determine that, and I'm pretty sure they've determined that already.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know. I guess I just want more info. I understand why we're not getting it, but anyway, I thought that was a good point that person had brought up. And anyway, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
No problem. No
Thank you
problem.
for calling.
And like, like for instance, somebody here says it doesn't add up or so much don't add up. And just to kind of give you 509, I guess just a whole picture type of thing. They have a white car driving around at the time that the murders happened without a front license plate, which he had a vehicle that matched that. They have his DNA on a sheath on the inside of a button, in the button snap, which is a very difficult place to touch for one thing. And it's his own, it's single source DNA. And that sheath was found on the bottom of a victim, under the body of a victim. You have his phone turned off for a specific time. That specific time is during the murders, right? You have his phone turn on and he's driving this weird route to get back home. All right. They found a potential receipt. I say potential receipt because we haven't seen it personally, but sources have indicated that there's a receipt that's been found of a purchase of a K-bar knife from Bryan Kohberger back in April 2022 through Amazon that cannot be found. Right. I mean, there's so much there that adds up, in my opinion, that only leads to him. I mean, you also have the witness statement. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, Dylan was this, Dylan was that, whatever. But Dylan's statement doesn't exclude Kohberger. She didn't say it was a 5'5", 300-pound guy. That would exclude Kohberger. What she said was somebody that briefly matches him that doesn't exclude him. So I think they got their guy. I think it's pretty clear.
Right. Yeah, and I am. Yeah, I'm aware of all of that. I guess I still, obviously, the whole 8-hour thing that drives me crazy. I know that drives a lot of folks crazy. I get the explanations. I understand where people are coming from, but I just find myself it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. And knowing there were other folks over at the property within that 8 hours, and I don't know, the fact, didn't Bethany head back to Nevada right away?
Would you have stayed?
I don't know if this is, what was that?
Would you have stayed, especially with so many people blaming the victims?
Well, no, and I'm not saying that alone. I'm just curious. I would not have stayed, of course not.
And I don't think she's from there either. I think she would have gone home. I think she's from Nevada.
Okay, I don't know if this is accurate or not. There's so many things out there, but I had heard she had also, and you might know this, that she had also retained an attorney right away.
Yeah, she didn't want to have anything to do with Bryan Kohberger's defense team.
Yeah, but then as far as her possible exculpatory evidence, I mean, how do you wonder what that could be?
Well,
or do you
I think
it's something the defense?
I think it's just a tactic. you know,
Yeah.
because their thing is that they also said that they plan on finding Bryan Kohberger's alibi through questioning the state's witnesses. Why not bring the one you think, make a witness the one you think is going to help him out the most, and ask them themselves, why take it up to chance that the state is going to somehow bring somebody? And you know what that is, right? What that is they're hoping that somebody gets nervous on the stand and says something that they can trip up. Not necessarily that he's innocent. Nothing thus far that has come out of Bryan Kohberger's defense team says he's innocent. Everything has been, technicality because they didn't prove reasonable doubt in the grand jury trial, or they didn't investigate all of Bryan Kohberger's family members who potentially could have been around the 1122 King Road residence at the time of the murders. The guy from Pennsylvania has some secret brother somewhere. That's their defense. That's their defense, that he has some relative somewhere that did this crime. Like, none of that screams innocence to me.
No, it is all very, very sketch for sure. I agree. Well, gosh darn, there was something else I was going to bring up, and it just slipped my mind. Well, I don't know. I am leaning towards
right, and
towards his guilt.
Right. Obviously, we don't know all the information, right? So we can't say today 100%, go put this guy to death. We don't know that. We want to see everything. I want to see all the evidence. If I was a juror, I'd want to see all the evidence, that's put out to, with what's out there. I find it hard for it not to be him, but I don't expect people to say, based on the evidence that they have, that it's 100% him. That would be wrong at this point.
Right. No, I agree. And I certainly can't say, he's 100% innocent just because of what we do know. I mean, I would like all of the other questions answered. I wish we had access to more. I wish more was released, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I mean, in other words, I don't know if what I had heard is correct. That we'll never know because it will never go to trial. At some point, though, I hope we do find out, because there's so many of us out there who, need answers to this. We want the families to be, to know that they have the right person and that, they're getting what they deserve in all of this. And I think it's just frustrating for a lot of folks. So,
yeah, I completely understand that and see that, talking with the families, talking with Christy, she seems fairly confident that they got their guy too.
Good. Well, and that's important. So she has a lot more access to things than we do, or I would think she would be. They would be a little more informed than the rest of us. So, it gives me a little more confidence. She's as competent as she is. So, well, I guess we just have to wait and see.
100%. Well, I thank you for calling in and giving us your perspective. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
And thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good call. Great call. Great
Happy
call.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Great call. All right. So, somebody said something. Oh yeah, right here. Didn't one of the girls see a naked man running outside? I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is, like, how does that exclude Kohberger?
It doesn't.
We think that he took his clothes off before he got into his car. That's why there's no DNA there. At one point he'd be unclothed to do so. So I think that's possible. Big Blue, what are your thoughts?
And that's the theory I had. If they did see somebody, was him changing into his, out of his suit that he took.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that's out there, guys, that we don't know about. And if, the caller is right, she's from the area code, I think, matches up. If somebody did kind of come to that conclusion that they have thousands of of evidence against him, and that he's going to end up pleading out. I believe it. I mean, I think it's very difficult. And once prosecution is there, right, and the jury is there, there's not going to be a creator up there spreading or trying to manipulate the evidence in a certain way that's going to affect that juror. That juror is going to hear the logical explanation from the prosecution, and they're going to have to hear a logical explanation from the defense team if there's one, right? They can't come out with these theories and all this other crap when it comes to the evidence that's pointing towards his, guilt, unless he goes up there and claims that those things are true and he takes the stand. Right. So they're not going to get all this pile of misinformation and stuff like that. So I think that once they have all the evidence laid out in front of them, I'll be honest, I don't think that this case is going to take very long to get, if the evidence is there that I think is there, then I think that, honestly, even with the evidence that we know now, I think it wouldn't take very long deliberation for him to be found guilty. What do you guys think? And then we'll probably call it a show.
I think it's just a big puzzle. I think it's a corner piece, and like the side of the puzzle that we have as evidence right now. But I think there's way more to make it make sense.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What about you, Big Blue? What are your final words?
Yeah, we still have to see what other evidence they have. See what the prosecution or not the defense has.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have much. But, you're innocent of proving guilty by your peers.
Yeah. Yeah, true story. He's presumed innocence through the court. He's innocent until proven guilty or he admits to his guilt. And, the presumption of innocence doesn't mean that he's to be looked at as if he didn't commit this crime, right? That just means that you don't treat him as if he was guilty of this crime at this point, meaning you don't take his life. You don't sentence him at this point, all right? But you can have your opinions one way or the other. There's nothing wrong with that. Yep. I want to thank everybody. I appreciate everyone on the show. We got one more super chat. Thank you so much, Micro. Kimmy comes in was, where are all Bryan's friends coming out to vouch for their boy? Where's his character witnesses on his behalf? Anyone? I'll wait. There might be a lot of YouTube creators on that list. I don't know if they know him personally, but they might be on that list.
Papa Rogers.
Papa Rogers, right? Imagine if Papa Rogers shows up. And Inside Looking, that's another one. That might be one of his buddies. Well, what's that?
I just want to say thanks to everyone, for hanging in there with us, even though it's kind of late.
Yeah, no. For those that play Fortnite, you might see us. Look up Drunk Turkey Dan. You'll see a squad there of 3. It'll be myself, Hyman, our fourth turkey, Big Blue. Jonathan, Big Blue. We've been waiting on him to jump on there. He's just.
I'll get there one day, man.
You can use your Nintendo thing.
Yeah, I have to buy the game now.
You don't. It's free.
What are you doing? Your excuses are not make. Your excuses are nice.
There's no reason, Big Blue, for you not to join our squad. The game is free. To play is free. To play online is free, and you don't have to have a PlayStation to join. I paused there for a reason. Inside joke. You don't have to have a PlayStation. You can play on your Nintendo. We can cross platform play. Cross-contaminate. Angel D comes in with a $5 super chat saying, if they have undeniable evidence against him, why would they not offer a plea deal? They probably did offer a plea. From what I understand is people are highly suspicious that a plea has been offered. I'm put it that way. The people think that that's already been in the works. But we'll see what happens. Yes, go Steelers. They play tomorrow at 3:30 Central, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll only be able to catch about half of the game because then I got to go to a Christmas party. It is what it is. Thank you, Gail. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate everybody. At this point, we got our good friend that's going to tell myself, Big Blue, and Jaime a little something.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here.
All right, we're getting out of here.
Leaders.
Later.
Oh,
You know,